Hello and welcome you watching the Thursday edition of This Is Exclusive with me, Shavan Sen. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight on This Is Exclusive, I come to you with two exclusive stories. First, a fake angioplasty. A private hospital in Ahmedabad. Was it actually claiming fraudulently funds that were meant for the poor? And was a fake angioplasty done on poor people? On This Is Exclusive, not only will we put the focus on what really happened in Ahmedabad when two people lost their life. Family members say that reports essentially suggested that there was no need for an angioplasty to begin with. But the hospital went ahead. In fact, the Gujarat government has now filed a complaint. All this and much more in this edition of This Is Exclusive. The other story that we're going to get to you tonight, a special investigation coming in from Jharkhand, which has now become a big talking point. This is with regards to what's really happening to the Santal population in Jharkhand and whether at all tribals are essentially being duped. All this and much more in this edition of This Is Exclusive. But up first, let's take you through the headlines we're tracking at this hour. Two of the 7 patients die after undergoing unwanted angioplasty. Gujarat government files an FIR. Prime Minister Modi launches scathing attack on the Congress, calls out compromise on national security after Congress's open call for subsidies to infiltrators. Ghulam Ahmad Mir quotes controversy, this after he said that at a poll rally that if the party is voted to power, gas cylinders will be given at 450 rupees to all citizens of the state, whether they are infiltrators or not. Duration deed scam unfolds in Jharkhand's Santal Pargana belt. Tribals continue to face threat. More details on this episode. Khyati Hospital in Ahmedabad conducts a medical camp near Ahmedabad and just a few days later brings patients to their hospital, carries out angioplasty, not just on one but several patients put together. It turns out that 2 of them lost their lives, and later on investigation essentially revealed, at least the preliminary investigation revealed, that perhaps there was no need for an angioplasty to begin with. Family members have levelled some scathing allegations against the hospital. So much so, the Gujarat police has now intervened, arrested a few people. The government has already filed a case against the hospital and the doctor. First, take a look at this detailed report as to what really happened in this very hospital, what are the allegations that have been levelled, and whether at all this is yet another racket and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Could it be that more than one hospital in several states are actually fraudulently claiming benefits from a centrally sponsored scheme?
A shocking incident has come to light from Gujarat's Ahmedabad. 2 beneficiaries under a central government health scheme died soon after an angioplasty was performed on them. However, the state government's preliminary probe tells us a different story. The probe calls the procedure unnecessary, saying that the patients did not require angioplasty in the first place. It also says the victims were not provided proper treatment post the operation. The 4 doctors who performed the procedure have already been booked, and the private hospital has been debarred under the PMJAY scheme. The village which one of the victims came from has erupted in anger.
2 દિવસ પહેલા ખ્યાતિ હોસ્પિટલમાંથી બધાની નાની મોટી ટ્રીટમેન્ટ ચેક કરવા માટે અમારા ગામમાં આવેલા અને પછી બધાના નામ લખેલા અને આજે સવારે લક્ઝરી મૂકી અને 17 થી 18 જણના લોકોને ખ્યાતિ હોસ્પિટલ લાયા કે ભાઈ તમારી નાની મોટી બીમારી છે એના માટે આપણે ચેકઅપ કરવા માટે હોસ્પિટલ લઈ જઈએ. તો બિચારા બધા આયા અને આઈ મોસ્ટલી બધા લોકોને એન્જિયોગ્રાફી કરી નાખી. હવે જેને કોઈને તકલીફ નથી એને પણ એન્જિયોગ્રાફી કરી નાખી અને એમાંથી 7 થી 8 જણ સ્ટેન્ડ મૂકી દીધા અને બાકીના 2 જણા એક્સપાયર થઈ ગયા સ્ટેન્ડ મૂકતી વખતે કે પહેલું સ્ટેન્ડ મૂક્યું બીજા સ્ટેન્ડમાં કંઈક ડિફિકલ્ટ થયું એટલે એક્સપાયર થઈ ગયા. આ બધા પ્રોબ્લેમ છે પણ એમના ઘરવાળાને કોઈને જાણ થઈ જ નહીં. એક્સપાયર થયા પછી તો જાણ કરે છે એમના ઘરવાળાને. જે આયુષ્યમાન કાર્ડના જે પૈસા હતા એના ફાયદા માટે આ લોકોને ગુમરાહ કર્યા અને જે એક્સપાયર થઈએ વ્યક્તિની તો સહી નહીં એવું પ્રૂફ ગણાય છે.
Speaking exclusively to Republic, the complainant spilled more beans about this shocking incident.
एंजियोप्लास्टी में जो दर्दी किए गए थे उसमें से 2 दर्दी की मृत्यु हो गई. तो वो सभी इंडिकेशन नहीं थे, हार्ट में प्रॉब्लम नहीं था, फिर भी ये सब प्रोसेस किया हुआ था और ये इसी तरह से प्रोसेस की वजह से जो डेथ हो गई तो ये काफी गंभीर एक क्राइम हो जाता है.
This case has brought to light serious loopholes and mismanagement in the medical system. The question that remains, how many lives will the quest for money continue to claim?
This is exactly what happened. A camp was organized by the hospital. Multiple villagers were essentially told that they perhaps will have to undergo an angioplasty. It turns out from the preliminary investigation that there was no need in the first place. So were patients essentially being cheated? This resulted in a complaint being filed. Gujarat police finally arresting one of the doctors in this particular case. My colleague Priyanka posed these questions to the doctor when he was produced before the court. Listen in.
आप वहाँ पे हॉस्पिटल में किस तरह से ऑपरेशंस कर रहे थे? क्या कुछ आपके ऊपर एलिगेशंस लगाए गए हैं कि आप लोग फोर्स कर रहे थे, जिनको कुछ पता नहीं था उनके ऊपर सर्जरीज कर रहे थे आप? ये एंजियोप्लास्टी क्या फोर्सफुली करवाई गई थी? डॉक्टर प्रशांत, क्या ये सर्जरीज और भी सारे पेशेंट्स के ऊपर कराई गई हैं? डॉक्टर प्रशांत, प्लीज एक मिनट. डॉक्टर प्रशांत, क्या ये सर्जरीज फोर्सफुली करवाई गई थी? क्या अननोइंग जो लोग हैं जिनको कुछ पता नहीं था उनके ऊपर सर्जरीज की गई थी? डॉक्टर प्रशांत.
So who exactly is Dr. Prashant that my colleague Priyanka was trying to confront? And why exactly is this doctor completely silent on this entire matter? If you go by the allegations that have been leveled by the Gujarat police, then they essentially suspect that this was being done in a fraudulent manner. Sources essentially indicating that at least 27 in such instances where they have claimed money from the government for carrying out these very operations, cardiology treatment that was provided to the patients. And most of these patients are those who come from the villages, not from the urban areas. This is an attempt that was made by Priyanka once again when he was produced in the court and he was being taken out.
डॉक्टर प्रशांत, आप वहाँ पे हॉस्पिटल में किस तरह से ऑपरेशंस कर रहे थे? क्या कुछ आपके ऊपर एलिगेशंस लगाए गए हैं कि आप लोग फोर्स कर रहे थे, जिनको कुछ पता नहीं था उनके ऊपर सर्जरीज कर रहे थे आप? ये एंजियोप्लास्टी क्या फोर्सफुली करवाई गई थी? डॉक्टर प्रशांत, क्या ये सर्जरीज और भी सारे पेशेंट्स के ऊपर कराई गई हैं? डॉक्टर प्रशांत, प्लीज एक मिनट. डॉक्टर प्रशांत, क्या ये सर्जरीज फोर्सफुली करवाई गई थी? क्या अननोइंग जो लोग हैं जिनको कुछ पता नहीं था उनके ऊपर सर्जरीज की गई थी? डॉक्टर प्रशांत.
Let me also bring in my colleagues. Priyanka Sharma is joining us from Ahmedabad and from the national capital, Gopi. Priyanka, first to you with regards to the investigation that has been carried out so far. What are the details are you picking up? Is this just the tip of the iceberg? Are we only talking about one hospital or there are more than one?
Well, Shravan, at this point, the government machinery is not leaving any stone unturned because they will be looking at other hospitals as well. In fact, one of the revelations that had been made inside of the courtroom while the arguments had been presented before the bench was that this doctor, in fact, was also working in a visiting manner with other hospitals as well. Not just that, we had seen 2 days ago that the Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel had also chaired a meeting, and post which there was a probe that had been ordered and a direction that had been given to also look at other hospitals, at least 20 to 25 other hospitals that are going to be looked into whether or not the same modus operandi was being carried out in that. Because as you very rightly pointed out, these are people in the villages that were being targeted, they were being looked at, and they were essentially being called to the free camp and then being called to the hospital for unnecessary surgeries as well. In fact, this particular instance has come to light because the two patients, in fact, unfortunately lost their lives in the unnecessary angioplasty that was being carried out. In fact, the facts of the matter were presented before the court as to why and how it was established to be unnecessary. Apart from that, in fact, the government has reason to believe that the management had been in cahoots, and they are the ones who had been, in fact, targeting these villages, because this is one such village in Kadi in Mehsana where this camp was carried out. But there are several other camps. In fact, in the court as well, the police had stated that they need Dr. Prashant in the custody so that they can question him to understand which other camps as well where something like this was going on, because they were beneficiaries of the PMJAY scheme that were specifically looked at, and they were the ones who were specifically called for the surgeries to the hospital as well. To kind of give our viewers an understanding, there was a luxury bus that had to get the the patients from the village to the hospital. And
Priyanka, I'll just request you to stay on. Priyanka, I'll just request you to stay on because I believe there is some more breaking news now coming in with regards to the investigation that has been carried out. In fact, 27 crore rupees was claimed by this very hospital from the government for over 600 cardiology treatments, out of which almost 4 crore rupees worth of claims were made in just 6 months. A total of 380 angiographies, 220 angioplasty and 36 coronary artery bypass grafting was essentially done by this very hospital. In one instance, in under 20 days, 650 cases were claimed for funds from the health department. Let me once again go back to my colleague Priyanka. We'll try and reconnect with her. She's joining us from outside Khyati Hospital where the angioplasty was done. My colleague Gopi, in fact, spoke to some of the family members. Gopi, give us a sense of what the family members have to say. How did they realize that perhaps there was no need for any angioplasty to begin with? You have spoken to a few of the family members. Unfortunately, we were unable to bring them on the show right now simply because they cannot speak in Hindi or for that matter in English, and that is the reason why we were unable to connect with them. But having said that, since you have spoken to them, what is it that they had to say?
Few of the deceased families is what I've spoken to. Both the families decide to study. It's a small village of Mehsana. But speaking to them, actually, this is a case of fraud. They had some past proceedings, so but there was no need of angioplasty. And in fact, it was a first attempt of doctor on the patient. While on the other side, Go had also said that the hospital also did not seek any permission from the health department of Mehsana, which also remains questionable, and this needs to be proved as well. But speaking to the victims' family, that also mentioned that while taking them to Ahmedabad, the Khyati multi-specialty hospital, they were not even allowed to consult another doctor or another hospital. So this was rather a first attempt over the two deceased who were lost their life, unfortunately. While this had happened, only with two of them, seven had underwent angioplasty as something. This is what we are learning from our sources. But the one question which remains is, why was this caused in spite of them not being prescribed of angioplasty? So this is a question which has to be individuals, the people of that study were out on highway.
With the audio line of Gopi. In fact, we seem to be having a problem with the audio line with Gopi. Just a quick recap before we move to the other story that we're tracking for you tonight on This Is Exclusive. Here you have only few arrests that have been made by the Gujarat police, but the larger nexus essentially emerging at this point in time, and the suspicion that the authorities have that perhaps not just one, several other hospitals are carrying out a similar sort of modus operandi where they're claiming funds from the centrally sponsored scheme and carrying out fake angioplasty.